Another thing that sellers are really bad at. They get that information and then using it to actually help sell, they're not good at that, right? So the AI can do that and bring it in a nuanced way and
Yeah.
also answer the tough technical questions, right? When they come up, or one of the places humans actually, my favorite thing about what an AI can do over a human is just one simple thing.
This is sponsored by the GTM AI Academy and AI-powered GTM, where we bring you insights, interviews, and all the latest knowledge needed to thrive with go-to-market and AI. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It is I, Coach K, and I am really excited today to talk to Amanda's on the phone. I say phone, on the line, and I'm just so stoked to be able to talk to you. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you, Jonathan?
Good. I'm really good. We've just been jamming. So I feel like, you ever have that thing where you feel like people, because I've seen the demo, I've watched a couple episodes with you, I've seen your stuff in the past from Sixth Sense. I feel like I know you, but you're some weird dude who's bald who's never talked to you before.
I've had that before in the airport. Like people are like, yeah, do I know you? I'm
Do
like,
I know you? You seem really familiar.
you don't know me.
Yeah. I had that in the music. Sorry, this is totally off base. I'm going to say anyways. When I was a musician for a while locally, and so I was pretty well known in the local spaces for music. And so I've had it happen before. Do I know you? I'm like, you've probably seen me in a music show. That's about it. So on a small spectrum, I understand. But anyways.
Mine much smaller, but keep going.
No, it's good. I'm really excited. So you are the CEO and founder of One Mind. I got to see a demo of yours in Austin at the GTM Pavilion event 2 weeks ago. It was awesome. And then obviously you had the HubSpot interview or HubSpot podcast interview, which is way cool. And you showed a demo there as well. So I'm just really excited to have you. I know in the past you've been a advisor and founder of other companies. You are the founder of Sixth Sense for a while and also help with Brit & Co., which I don't know what that is. So I'd love to know more. But tell me the scoop. Like, what I love to start with you of telling me your story, your journey of like, how'd you go through this path and why in the world did you choose this crazy AI space to do stuff?
Yeah, my journey's long, but I'll try to keep it somewhat short.
I don't mind. I like long stories. This is good.
Okay, you can always cut it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to say I started my life and my experience of getting into AI right out of college. Like I graduated college, didn't know what I wanted to do with myself, got a job as an advisor at a company that ended up getting purchased by Forrester. So it was called Giga Information Group. So I was doing advisory tech work for about a year before I landed into my first company that I started when I was 21. And that company went on for 16 years and we were doing big data consulting. So we're tying together unstructured data and structured data across marketing, sales, and customer success. Doing a lot of backward looking analytics. And that went on I had a lifestyle business, really had no desire to go be a venture backed CEO and do something big. I was enjoying my life. And that's when I came up with a thesis that I'm really helping big companies and these executives just feel good about the existing plans that they have and not really helping move their business forward. And so my thesis was, what if I could look back on data instead of looking forward? What if I could look back on data and predict the future? So for example, if companies are buying from Cisco, if other companies exhibit the same pattern, can I predict that they're in market to buy? And after about call it a 3 to 5 year project where it was a lot of trial and error and a lot of failures, I was able to predict with an 80% accuracy when a company was getting ready to buy from Cisco. And so
Awesome.
That's what sprung, and that's how Sixth Sense got started. I thought to myself, whoa, okay, this works. I did it for Intel, same kind of similar results. And I thought we need to purpose build software to do just this. And that's how Sixth Sense was born. I went out and sought venture funding and I was like, all right, I need to go, how do I build software? I need to raise money. And so I went out on Sand Hill Road. I had 66 VC meetings and 22 all partner meetings and got more no's than anyone ever cares to think about. And I think if I had known how hard that journey was going to be, I don't know that I would have done it. So going in with blinders is always a blessing. And then I eventually got the funding. I merged together with a YC-backed company that had built a big data platform. And we went out, we got funding, got our first 12 million, and we were off to the races. And so that was Sixth Sense and had a nice long journey there. And then it was time for me to have some babies and get my cortisol levels down. And then I took some time off.
That's awesome. And then you did so I know you were the board of directors and obviously advisors. So I'm guessing it's just a more laid back stuff. And then you decided to get back in the swing of things. What made you, of all the options, because I know you have plenty of options out you could have done, why this one with One Mind? Why is this the focus you chose to do?
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't looking. And I always say the best things find you when you're not looking, right? So when you want a relationship, it's don't look for one, else you're not going to find the right one, right? So
Right.
same kind of thing. So I wasn't looking, and this company, an advisor of a company called AI Foundation, so they were a labs company, and they were building these synthetic media and brains for the last 5 years. So they raised a considerable amount of money, and they were set out to build human-like replicas and use it in a deterministic way. So this was
Mhm.
pre-generative. So they were doing like deterministic, like a chat experience with a photoreal face, voice, and brain. They came to me and they had this technology, and like the generative wave was just starting, and said, we need to find a home in a vertical lane to apply this. So they had cloned the likes of Barack Obama and Deepak Chopra. We had like
Oh,
patient
nice.
concierge portals and like
Yeah.
an AI that can talk to patients and caregivers of patients, et cetera. And right away, I said to myself, could this apply to sales and marketing? Right. So could you use this as a salesperson essentially? And when
Yeah.
I got to the answer of yes, that's when I realized that, oh my God, this is bigger than myself. And this is something that I can get really excited about. So I said I would only come off the bench if the opportunity were fun, it was a
Yeah.
big enough opportunity that I could actually take it all the way and ring the bell, and it aligned to the world that I knew well, which is B2B go to market, sales and marketing. And so I said yes, and call it almost a year ago now, about 9 months ago, we raised money,
Mhm.
and yeah, we are going. It's
You're
happening.
yeah, you are going,
It's
which I love
happening.
seeing the speed and acceleration which you're having, and then obviously you've been at this for a while, like, quite a while, almost
Yeah, we're
right?
almost
Almost
a
a year?
year now, 9 months. We've been in market with the product for, call it 3 or 4 months of real, like, MVP of our product out selling, but getting some incredible traction with some of the biggest logos in the world. So I cannot
I love it.
complain. Yeah.
So why One Mind? I love asking this question. Why'd you name it One Mind?
I like to say I start my companies with a number. So
Yeah. I
6
know,
and
I can see the
12.
pattern here.
So I had to have a pattern, right? I had to have a thing. And the number had to be ahead of 6. So if we're listed together, we get listed first. And who's ever gonna do a 0 company, right? So I know it will always be top of the list, but that was just my cute and clever, but I honestly I loved it. It
Nice.
was one of the actually, when I named 6 Sense, I remember thinking everything's listed numeric alpha. So if you look at a list of anything, 6 Sense is always gonna come up first, and it really
Mm.
served us well. Like, it still does. You see a massive list of sponsors or logos, and they always just try to keep everyone just nobody's gonna get precedent. We're just gonna put you in order of numeric alpha, and 6 Sense is always first. So I was like, I wanna be at the top of the list still. So that's how we came up. I knew it had to start with a 1, and
Ooh,
then it was all the best minds across your organization combined into one. So it's one mind that can do everything across your go-to-market team.
I'm gonna take that note for later, so if and when I ever launch a product, I'm gonna or a team, I'm gonna think about the number
So you
thing.
got the numbers,
That's
right?
awesome. You've now inspired my mind on new names for stuff.
Right?
That's awesome. I'm just really excited about where you're going. So, like, I've been in the AI space for obviously not as long as far as deep into. I've been in it for 5 years or so, and it's been more on the back end. So, other companies who have their own AI platforms and functionality. So, I was as the internal enabler of knowledge for both customers and for internal teams to know how the heck to sell it and what the heck to say to customers and all that kind of stuff. So, I've worked really closely with AI founders who taught me a lot about it, but it wasn't until obviously the explosion of API accessible OpenAIs and Claudes and Geminis and all those other models you could use to see all this stuff. I really dove in and got my hands dirty with stuff and saw the application, which is awesome. What I love about yours is that it's not just a classic role play type of tool. Not that that's bad, but there's a smattering of them out there. And it's not also an AI SDR. It's like actually executing on conversations that people are having day to day. So with that in mind, I know you know about the industry and the market really well. Why is that experience the one you zeroed in on of saying, "This is the pain point we think is happening," and can you describe what the pain even is to you trying to solve for?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. We believe fundamentally buying and selling happens in the conversation, not around the conversation. And I think you see a lot of AI solutions today, and I call them workflow solutions, point solutions, like these agentic agents that are out there performing simple, as Mark Benioff said in his keynote at
Right.
Dreamforce, they're performing simple tasks, right? So that's their job, is to perform these simple tasks. And while that's great and creates efficiency, in a world where we are not at grow at any cost anymore, we can't just throw money at the problem, and we can't go
Yep.
spend $4 to obtain a $1 for every $1 in revenue. We need to have efficiency gains, but we need to help grow. I need to help companies grow. And so if I'm going to use AI, what problem do I want to solve more than growth? Who doesn't have a growth problem or a
Yeah.
challenge or opportunity, if you will? So
Yeah.
yes, while it is helping with efficiency, it's really helping companies like streamline the process. And at the end of the day, it's not for me, I'm not solving for my buyers, for my customers. I'm solving for their buyers. So if you think about the buying experience, I know we've been saying this, I know 20 years ago, I said this in the beginning of 6 Sense Days, the buyer
Right.
experience is broken, but we've all been, touting that forever. And people have been looking to fix it with pieces of the
Little
experience to try to
things.
make it slightly better. But what if we could reimagine how buyers buy and put the control truly in their hands? Meaning they can get instant access to data anytime, anywhere. They don't have to wait to schedule a call. They don't have to go search your website. Think how archaic it is that we make somebody, you're going to go buy CRM. What do? You go on Google and you search, and then you end up on HubSpot or you end up on
Mhm.
Salesforce, you end up wherever you end up. And then you're starting to find your way around, navigate that site. And then you get fed up. So you're like, okay, fine, I'll fill out a form so I can talk to somebody. You wait 5 days to talk to a junior SDR who has the best of
Right.
intentions, but are just there to qualify you. And then you get
Right.
passed through a sales rep. And then from there, the sales rep doesn't understand your technical questions. So you get a sales engineer. And holy shit, what did we just make your buyer go through
Right.
from you? We are not making
Right.
it for buyers to buy. So what
Mhm.
if all of that can just be like, let's have a human-like experience on the first touch and available all the time. And what does a human-like experience look like for us? We believe it's an empathetic experience where she can listen to your pains. What are you trying to solve for? She asks you those qualifying questions, but not so she can fill out her qualification form, but that she can use them 5 turns later to tell you why your solution solves that particular pain. And this is
Yeah.
one point where I feel AI has limitations. It's not as good as humans on relationships and some other pieces, but humans have massive limitations on capacity and recall. So
Right.
when we get in a call, I can ask you all my qualifying questions. I don't care how good you are as a rep. The best reps out there very rarely use that information in the same conversation to help sell the product and do it in a really well, or pull up the right demo that answered that exact pain that you just identified. But we can't, because we can't go grab it and find it and then keep the conversation going. Guess what? The AI can. And so she can
Mhm.
use all that information and be so much better and really align and have that, what I call empathetic experience for the buyer. I'm not fully replacing sellers out there. I think there will still be sellers. There's still a place for the relationship. There's still a place to buy the Bordeaux. But as a way of communicating and passing information back and forth and putting the control in the hands of the buyers instead of the sellers, if we shift that and really focus on our buyers, I think you'll see exponential growth in revenue and extreme cut in cost. If humans cost 50 to
Yeah.
80% of our P&L are
Your
people.
costs?
Yeah. So it's a win on both sides, on top and bottom line.
Okay, I have a bunch of things to ask you. I'm gonna ask you a couple though. So I know you've done some things with Jocko with winning by design, and obviously you brought up the growing at all cost thing. I've been thinking about this from that lens, but from another one of just my own experience, similar to yours, where the buyer experience, like you see these demo days from Pavilion or from Men of Genius, or I have the demo library, or there's all these accessible demos out there trying to replace the buying function because it's so painful. I've been through it both as a buyer and as the seller, so I know how painful it is. So you have that lens of it, and then you think about AI and taking yours but look at the larger market, all the things that can be accessible to someone in a way that would make it more pleasing to the buyer, or at least a little bit buyer friendly. And the consequences of that, which means it drastically shifts your sales process to match more of what a buying process is, which it should be anyways. But with
Mhm.
that being said, though, my opinion is, I'd love to get your take on this, is if humans are in charge of a budget, then it will take a human to release it. And I'm just curious if we think about it, because OpenAI had their dev day where they had a AI buy some strawberries. So the AI had budget to buy strawberries, but buying an entire strawberry company, no. So it's the budget is where the buck stops. What do you think about that?
I think that if that were the case, and now in some cases, yes. So let me
Yeah.
start with saying there are some cases where there will be need the human to unlock the budget and create the final mile. So I think of that as
Yeah.
the final mile. Like you need to create the relationship, understand the nuances of what they
Right.
need, align to like how we're going to price, et cetera. What does the contract look like? But if we look at the companies that have succeeded since the pandemic and
Mhm.
the whole in 2020, we had like the explosion of PLG. And that's where there's no human, right? So it's the product it's selling itself. And so I like to say we're moving into a world of what I call AILG. So AI led growth, right?
Nice.
So that's, well, like to say I'm coining that term now, but
I like it. Coin on the show. I love it. Let's do it.
right? Like I'm sure someone's using it somewhere. I'm sure I'm not the first.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it. So I like that we've gone from a world where, yes, if you have a low friction flywheel product, you can do PLG. But only so many companies can do that, right? As
Right.
somebody, selling 6 cents for so long and selling these bigger enterprise products, you can't do that, right? You don't have
Right.
that flywheel, that motion, that really quick, easy to get instant value and do a free trial and then move to pay as you go and then move to a committed contract. But in an AI-led growth world, you can have nuanced, complex conversations with the AI to get information that can meet your needs in a way that PLG can't offer you, right? So
Mhm.
you can get, to be honest, an AI in a sales engineer and a solutions engineer capacity is exponentially better if done right
Yeah.
than a
Yep.
human because they are just not going to miss the nuances. They're not going to miss the details. And the more data you put in her brain, I like to say, the smarter she is. So those products that are more complex, the AI is actually going to do extremely well. So in that world,
Nice.
we don't always need the human, but we do need the human for the piece of, okay, and I have the relationship. I want to, maybe there's some price constraints, budgets, somebody wants to be taken to dinner and there is a relationship side. I think those things will still exist for a while, but then it'll become the new norm. It's like I think about Mike Maples and he talks about the best companies like have this concept of backcasting, which is you're
Mhm.
looking to the future, right? So you're looking to something like when Uber came out, did we really think we were going to get in a stranger's car? I know I was not an
Right.
early adopter of Uber
Right.
as a woman, right? Because no way am I getting in a stranger's car.
Right.
No way am I renting out my house for Airbnb and letting a stranger sleep in my bed. But guess what? We all do it now because the benefits of having that accessibility and having that income come in far outweigh, right? The convenience of it far outweigh the, "Ooh, that might be a little icky." And I think it's similar. The convenience of the AI being always on, always available, and giving accurate, amazing answers far outweighs the nuance in the buy me that Bordeaux or buy me the nice steak. I'm a vegan, so I'm not going to eat the steak. But
Right.
yeah, like the relationship side of the selling.
I thought of this a lot, and I love your take on this, by the way, because it is intriguing thinking, taking the PLG motion and applying AI to it, which opens up a lot more possibilities what you can do. Because, like you said, I've been in enterprise sales for a long time. There's some things I'm like, I can't PLG some enterprise motions. You have to have a human. But having an AI, like in your demo, one thing I love was that you had multiple personas. You had the AI who was a salesperson, then you had AI was the engineer, and both of them are accessing the same data and information so they can, collaborate in a way real time on whatever the solution's gonna be, which is awesome. And coming from the training world or enablement world, like, I can't tell you how many times the bottleneck in most experiences for sellers is the discovery call and the very first part of it, whether it's and then it's negotiation, making sure you're attaching 3 months ago conversation to current times of wherever your value you're bringing. So it's just and it's not easy to do. Crazy. So I say all that to say, I had a couple thoughts. One was Jacques posted the other day about the more complex and higher the risk, the more chance of catastrophe, right? What's your take on that? And how do you make sure that AI is aware of or responsible or making sure it's guiding conversations so if anything is like flag risk, we got a problem here that it brings in the humans when they need to.
Yeah, so I think we take the approach that everything has to be a combination of generative with deterministic. So we don't have a fully generative model. A fully generative
Mm.
model is highly likely to hallucinate, sell your competitors' products, bounds like what Jocko is talking about of how, like these complex products. But I actually disagree in the sense like
Ooh,
love
give it to
Jocko,
me.
but understanding the levels of detail. If you can put that in her brain and she has the answer, and then you have to set the guardrails for her to know when to say, I haven't been trained on this. And I think that's
Mhm.
really important too, for her to say no versus her goal to be answer every question. Her goal is not to answer every question. It's to answer the questions when you have the knowledge and when you don't defer. And then when you defer to pass that back to whoever is building that AI to say, we call that a knowledge gap to say, hey, she had a knowledge gap today. She couldn't answer this question. She didn't
Right,
understand this. And so it's a combination of art and science with building these AIs.
right.
And that's where a lot of people, when you try to build it yourself and build your own LM, you'll see crazy things will
Mhm.
happen. It's the rigor and discipline to have the deterministic behind the generative. I like to say the deterministic tells her what to say, and the generative tells her how to say it so that she can be creative and flow and natural. But really, what to say is more of a very structured methodology, if you will.
All right, I've got so many ways. I have 4 notes we gotta go down, so we gotta make sure I get them all before the end. All right, so let's go from the start. I know most people probably assume they know what generative is, but I'd love to have you define real fast 2 things. One is, what is deterministic versus generative? And then 2, is that your own model or you're accessing another open API of some kind?
Yeah, so deterministic is really simple. So it's a concept of if then, right? So
Yeah.
think of like old chatbots that we all hate, right? The
Yeah,
chatbots
right.
that are like, do you have a support question or do you want to talk to a person or do you have a
Mhm.
product question? So then they have all these flows and paths. And any of you who have set up a chatbot in the past in a deterministic world probably are not lovers of it because
Yep.
maintaining those rigorous, complex flows is tough. Right? And so they always get out of date. They're hard to manage. There's all kinds of different paths that they have to go down. So we keep a light, loose structure and we call it a goal-based structure. So it's similar to deterministic and it is deterministic, but she has an end goal. Her goal is to qualify. Her goal is to book a meeting. Her goal is to engage the PLG motion and get somebody to have a free sign up. And with that, these are the steps that she needs to go through. And we're not going to tell her how to take those steps, but these are the places she has to get here. She has to ask these 5 questions. When there's an opening, go in for the close. So you're giving her this is the guidance of the path you
Yeah.
need to take with a beginning, middle, and an end. And then the generative is how does she say it? So what is her tone? When does she
Right.
inject a humor into it? Does she have humor? Is she super verbose or is she really direct and to the point? Is she your professor or is she your friend on the call? So you can put personality and tone and things like that, but her to go grab the embeddings and grab the right information and then apply that into it. And then how she says it is more of the generative approach. And so we're not recreating our own LLMs by any means. We use all of them. So we use Gemini, we use OpenAI, we use Llama, we use Anthropic. Depending on what she's trying to accomplish and depending on the goals, we'll go down different paths with different models. So we have a hybrid approach on that side, but it is our own deterministic goal-based system that leads the generative down its path.
Cool. I love it. So one question, just random. I just thought of as you were talking. When they talk to someone, do they automatically adjust personality to fit the mirroring concept? Is it able to do that?
Not right now, but it will.
But eventually.
So yeah.
Cool. Love it.
So we're building a
That's
couple
cool.
things that we're building towards. That is actually one of the things we're building towards. Another that we're building
I
towards
love it.
for her to be able to detect emotion and tone. So imagine if you're saying yes, but you really mean no, right?
Right.
And then she can detect that. She can see that through the camera. She's like, oh, I need to switch my tone. And also imagine, I like to say we're giving control to the buyer to choose who their seller is. So right now we let our buyer, so I let my customer choose what's the persona and the face and the voice that you want. But imagine that they let their buyers choose. So you go on to
Yeah.
talk to New Relics AI and imagine that you get to choose, I want somebody who matches my cultural ethnicity, right? So I want somebody who talks like me and looks like me, or maybe I don't, or whatever it is, but you get to choose who your seller is. And we don't get to choose. So this is where I always say AI has limitations that it's not where a human is. There is a place where, in the relationship and
Right.
other areas, but then there's places where she is 10x, 100x a human. On the
Mm.
capacity side, the ability to morph her personality and do those things. So the short answer is not today. The very short term, yes, we will be able to do those things. And that's what we're building towards.
I love this. I've been going out a lot of, I know these are random, but
I
these are
love
totally
it.
attached to
Keep
what you're saying.
going.
This is great. All right. So I had one thought, which was a little bit earlier, which is going to your point of when the salesperson gets involved, there's things the salesperson does versus the AI. And then you also have marketing. As you're talking, I'm thinking once the AILG, as you going to say, happens, that's drastically going to change usual go to market, your marketing, your sales process, the training, the skills the salesperson has to have once it actually gets to them, because the buyer's much more educated and their conversation will be way better. All these things will change as a result, right? So
Mhm.
if you don't mind walking me down both the marketing angle of how you see marketing shifting and then also the sales angle of when the human actually gets involved, what is then important? Does that make sense, hopefully?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So from a marketing side, imagine there's a lot of AI SDR companies out there. We're not that. So just to be
Right.
clear, I like to say I started 6 Cents to find buyers and I'm starting One
Yeah.
Mind to close them. So we are engaging once you have somebody on the hook when they get to your website and they're engaging and taking them all the way through post sale to customer success. So we're taking your buyer from first touch all the way through to upsell, renewals, et cetera. From a marketing perspective, I think what we do a lot better than humans is the SCRs, if you will, the inbound BDRs. Somebody comes having a conversation, they are just there to qualify, right? Do you have budget? Are you the right role? Are you the right size of company? And they don't give the pitch because guess what? We don't trust them to, right? We don't want them to give the full
Mhm.
experience and tell because we're afraid hey, this is a 20-something-year-old kid who doesn't understand our technology. We don't want them outselling it. So let's just use them to take that first step. But put yourself in the buyer's shoes. They don't want to have that conversation just to get to a real conversation. That's not
Right.
fair. But the AI can because it's exponentially less. It costs 2% the cost of a human on a per conversion rate basis. So if it's 2% the cost of a human, she can give the pitch. Eventually, she'll be able to click around and give the demo, right? So we can't do that today, but we're building that where she can actually give the custom demo. And then she passes it off and it's much more qualified, right? So she's
Right.
asking her qualifying questions as she's giving the buyer value. So she's giving the buyer what they came for, which is tell me about what you do and how you can meet my pain. But then she's qualifying along the way and she passes it off. Now, here's the beauty of what happens next. The seller engages, and then in this world where we are today, it would be like an AE or somebody would engage with your buyer. But now that AI joins the Zoom call. So now the
Mhm.
AI joins the Zoom call as the solutions engineer or the sales engineer to do two things: bring all that information back from that first conversation and everything you have in Salesforce into the conversation at the most relevant right time. So another thing that sellers are really bad at, they get that information and then using it to actually help sell, they're not good at that, right? So the AI can do that and bring it in a nuanced way and
Yeah.
also answer the tough technical questions, right? When they come up, or
Mm.
one of the places humans actually, my favorite thing about what an AI can do over human, there's just one simple thing. You ask me a hard question, I know I have the slide as a human. Like you say, oh, what's your technical architecture? Amanda, show me now. I would be like, finding the slide. Impossible, especially when you have thousands, sales enablement docs, and you have
Tons of
thousands of
stuff.
docs, right? Or I have a case study. You're like, show me how it works in this particular way. And I
Right.
know there's a case study, but I can't go get it because I can't go find it in real time. But the AI can access 20,000,
Everything.
100,000 docs and bring that up
Yep.
like that instantly and talk at the same time. We can't do that. And so when she
Mm.
does that, so actually I find it interesting if you go to onemind.com and talk to our AI, you ask her a hard question. I call them magic moments when you ask her the question and she's like, boom, there's the slide that goes with it. Boom, there's the
That's
video
cool.
that goes with it. Because we can't do that as humans. So she becomes part of this process to, again, facilitate that information in the most empathetic way at the right time in the right place to move the deal forward and give the control back to your buyers, which is what they ultimately want. They're going to buy from you if they feel in
Yeah.
control. We all want to be in control, right? I actually am getting a house. I bought my dad a house recently and I'm remodeling it.
Nice.
Sorry if these people are listening, but my interior designers, I don't think they'll listen to this, but if they do, because it
What
just
they
pissed
do.
me off. This morning, they basically said to me, you can't talk to the contractor. They're taking the control away from me. I'm like,
Mhm.
what? Why can't I talk to the contractor? I'm paying for it. So they're gatekeeping. And this is what we do as
Yeah.
well, because they want to control the whole experience. I almost wanted to cancel on them because I was like, no, you don't, if I want to ask him a question, I can ask him a question. Like, you don't own me.
Right.
It's the same thing as if we keep the information gated from our buyers and we try to control things, you're going to turn them off at the end.
And yeah, I could probably talk to you for 2 hours on this. I have so many things to talk about and to ask you, but I love it in general because, like you said, there's things like perplexity in ChatGPT, and people are changing their whole way they search, going through different models.
Yep.
So it makes sense that what would be cool is when you're able to access a salesperson, AI salesperson that's trained in the industry, the problem, the solution, and also has talked to all the other companies it has as its brain from the last 25 conversations. So it can just say, based on everyone else I've just talked to the last 3 days, here's what I need to know. Like that kind of that's powerful when you think about it from that lens because it has all this training automatically, which is pretty cool. All right, I have a couple things, but before I dive into my other questions, I have to ask you. So, if you're not AI SDRs, what the heck category do you put yourself in?
So we are superhumans for go to market. Um, I think there are the categories that are out there right now. I think the AI SDR is evolving as a category itself. There is
Yeah,
the digital worker category. So I think that would be the closest thing to a cat that's out there that you see today. But the digital workers, like the agents, like it's almost like the Salesforce agents, those are just completing those repetitive tasks and workflow
right,
across a different, stage of the funnel. That's not what we're
right.
doing. Our category is humans. So we are like by us or by a human. That is literally we're going in, that's how we look at it from our customer perspective. I like to tell my buyers, this isn't technology. You're buying a human-like experience. So when I tell you what the price tag is, which is not terrible, but when I tell you what it is, look at that compared to the cost of a human,
Right, right.
and she can outperform a human by 1,000x, right? So, or
Mhm.
even more than that. It's about 2% the cost is 1/150th of a human for the same productivity and the same number of calls. So that's really where we put ourselves, and so I don't know how the G2s of the world are gonna put us in the category, if that is it a
Right.
category of human? I don't know. I like to think we're not software. We actually are providing this team. We like to say that the AI is spinning up a virtual desktop in the cloud that can do everything a human can do. She can join a Zoom, she can give a pitch,
Yep.
she can give a demo, she can answer questions, she updates Salesforce, she has recall, she can bring that back into the conversation. And so that's our goal at the end of the day. So I don't know if somebody has a better answer for us.
Thing?
I'd love all the marketers out there to help me think of what our category is. because it's really a category of we're calling ourselves superhumans. So like we go from chat to agents and then to superhumans. And then the full evolution would be to AGI, which we're not there yet.
Right.
So we're one step away from AGI.
I'll have to think about. I'll have to jam after this podcast is in. I'll jam with ChatGPT on the ideas and send you some.
Yeah, give it to me. Yes, I've
There
been
you go.
trying.
Just haven't got it yet. Then the obvious question would be for those who are listening who are revenue leaders, sales engineers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because I've been having the same conversation with enablement people or RevOps people saying there's things that we do currently that are going to be eradicated by AI like that. And if you're not willing or able to adjust to it, you're going to be left in the dirt because you're trying to do 2013 enablement in 2025. It's not going to work. So with that being said, what do you suggest to people who could potentially be replaced by a superhuman? What do they do to make sure they're still valuable, still relevant, still
Love it. Yep.
whatever?
Yeah, I think, it is a hard reality. And I won't laugh at this. That there are jobs that will be replaced and are going away.
Yep.
And I'm leaning into this. This is the honest truth. And so I always like to say in life, we can embrace change with fear or with love. And like the idea of having love in your heart, and that's just the idea of being open to what's next and what's new. And so those people who have those jobs, I'll give you a specific example. My neighbor across the street came over to me and said, Amanda, I've been a data scientist for years and I'm trying to find my next calling and what I really want to do, but there aren't as many jobs because of AI. What should I do? And I was like, You need to lean into AI, right? So why don't you take those skills? They are transferable, a lot of them in this world of what's happening in AI. And I didn't mean to do this, but I connected him to my head of AI and said, hey, Devin, talk to him about what he should be doing in AI. And next thing we hired him. So
there you go.
It's like working for us. So
nice.
Really good example of, and he's loving it. And he had no idea like where he was going to go, what he was going to do in his future. And I was having dinner last night with a very good friend of mine who works at my past company. And she's, if I'm looking at any other opportunities or what I should be doing, where should I be looking at? And I was like, there are a couple things you look for as a company you want to get involved with. One is, can you get passionate about the product and what they're doing? And two, is it a big enough market, right? If there's like a cap on the market that they're going after and something she was looking at didn't have a very big market. And I was like, that means your equity is only going to be worth this much. Like,
tiny.
So you've got to look at the bigger picture outside of yourself. But train yourself on these skills. Like we are hiring like the dialogue side of the house. Like there is an art and it's so fun too. If I were starting my career, I would love to be getting into like I would be totally leaning into being an AI developer or a Gen AI dialogue person. Right. Name of the role is eluding me. You can cut that out.
The prompt engineering side, or what do you mean? The dialogue. Oh, that's golden. I love it. Dialogue. That's awesome. I love it.
The prompt engineer, but doing things like that. So you have to evolve and find things there will be still. And I do believe that there's a new framework for society, which is probably not what you want to ask me about, but I do believe in universal basic income. And I do believe there's a new way that like we're going to have to behave, that we can give everybody the Maslow's hierarchy of the minimum needs. And those people who do want to hunt and fight and work like myself get to, but not everybody has to. And is that such a terrible thing that we can feed everyone and take care of all basic needs without everyone hustling? I don't think it's so bad.
Yeah, going on, that's like the Star Trek route is like that world of there's explorers and the people at home and just chill out and enjoy life, which is cool.
Why? Do it.
Yeah.
I know I have family members who are doing it and love it and great. I want to go hustle. You pick up my kids from work and I'm going to go hustle.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Going back to, this kind of the same subject, but like we talked about the marketing side of like how the things would change, but like talking about salespeople specifically, those who decide to stay in the hustle and to be the person that gets handed off from an AI, what do you think the skills are they need to be like really good at to be that person who's still in sales?
Yeah, it's the strategic nature of selling, like the relationship. I always said the number one skill of a salesperson is relationships. And that is a skill that the AI is not going to accomplish anytime soon. So building deep connections with people. I remember some of our earliest customers at 6 Sense all happened to be women. And that wasn't like, it wasn't because I was like, oh, I'm just going to go after women, but it related to me. I was like a woman founder, CEO, and we wanted to help each other, right? So they were like, I want to help you. And so they were giving me a chance when nobody else would. And I remember going to dinner with them and saying to myself as I got out of the car every single time, don't mention 6 Sense. Just talk to them, get to know them as a person, build the relationship, understand their family, what matters to them, what makes them tick, what motivates them, what drives them. And then a couple weeks later or whatever, then ask the team to be connected, right? So it's learning how those those skills are not gonna, I don't think that's gonna stop. So like focusing on those things, focusing on the bigger picture and being strategic within your organization and not just being like in your lane. Because if the AI can come in and help convey the information, what are you gonna do for the relationship in that
Right.
sales cycle?
It reminds me of, this is random because I'm a fan of the shows, of The Office, when Michael Scott took that one school board guy out and he got him drunk at the thing. And his boss was like, "What are you doing?" And then he finally closed him saying, "You got to connect with them." And it's one of those things where it shows you the power behind a good salesperson versus not. The same concept, which is cool.
100%. And some people do still want to buy from humans. That's not going to change overnight. I'm not
Right.
at all suggesting that buyers are not going to want to talk to humans anymore. Like some industries, I bet 9 out of 10 developers and engineers will be stoked to talk to an AI versus a human. If you're selling something more, if you're selling to a marketer, maybe they care. And I'm generalizing. There are
Right.
certain profiles of individuals that will be much more susceptible to, yeah, I want instant answers and I want them direct versus I want the fluff. Like some people hate the fluff. Like one of the things actually Jocko gave me
Right.
feedback, biggest piece of feedback that we're actually applying to the AI right now and gave me is get rid of all the platitudes. She's too, that must be so nice. And I'm like, that's not natural. And I was like, so I didn't even notice it. But now that he's called it out, I see it every time I watch one of the transcripts. I'm like, it's gotta go away.
But no, don't do that. Yeah, that's
Yeah, so
funny.
I have to have a call after this with my team to say, how do we get rid of those? Because they're driving me crazy, right? That's not where she's good, so she shouldn't try to do that. So
Right.
she should lean into what she's good at and let the humans lean into what they're good at.
I have a random, this is probably my last question. We'll wrap it up, which is, I was thinking about this world as you're talking of, okay, if we're going to the buyer's journey, like if people come to the buyer, do you see a world where somehow the human would invite several companies' AI bots and they all pitch them each other, ask questions, and all have, what if 3 or 4 competitors all use your tech and they all in the same place at the same time? Like how do you ever see a world like that where they have several bots who are asking the same questions and just picking whatever product that fits the best?
Yeah, I tell the story of when I was out raising money, I created my AI that was a clone of myself and I sent it out
Mhm.
to investors, right? And so I sent that out and the investors will talk to my AI and that's how I got the first like touch and the engagement with investors. And I always say
Yeah.
like the other side of that is where investors would have their AI talking to my AI. So imagine how
Right.
many pitches they get every day, right? That's basically where you're going, right? Where they're getting like hundreds of pitches and then they can let the AI have the first conversation and qualify if they make sense, right? For the buyers have it as well. But yeah, I do see a world where I don't know that I would want my AI on a call with like my competitor's AI
Right.
information. And so I would probably
Right.
opt out of allowing her to do that. But I do see a world where there's an AI seller and a buyer. And it, especially for it, not in every situation, because it doesn't make sense for a one-time purchase, but it does make sense for like procurement jobs or jobs where you're doing repeated purchases. So
Yep.
you're not going to train up an AI for just to purchase one thing, right? You're going to go do it yourself because it doesn't make sense. Because there is time, especially today. Maybe in the future, it'll be easier to create the AI, spin it up like that, which actually we're about to release something that you can have your own
Ooh,
AI in like minutes, right? From going to,
awesome.
what we're really excited about is to qualify, like
Nice.
connect your URL here. I'll give you the snippet of it. I'm going to drop it here for the first time. You basically put your website in. She'll scrape your website, get all the content on the website. You tell us what sales methodology you use, throw in any qualifying questions, and you've got an
Mhm.
SDR, inbound SDR that I guarantee is 10 times better than your best.
That's awesome.
And
I
then you
love it.
just tweak it from there. Yeah.
That's really cool. I was just thinking, as you're talking about, thinking in the future, do we need to have deal rooms that someone creates? It's third party, so AIs can sell to AIs and all this,
Right?
whatever space they do. I don't know how they do that digitally, but it's just, yeah, the consequences of that are cool and crazy at the same time, which is fun. But
And super
yeah,
fun. Yeah.
yeah. It's been, Amanda, you've been just nothing but a pleasure to talk to you. And I love listening to your brain just rattle off all these brilliant concepts and modes so effortlessly. So it's so nice.
By the way, this was my AI. This is not really me.
Ah,
That's full transparency for anybody watching this. This is Amanda AI. I should have it listed under, but this is not the real Amanda. The real Amanda is out building relationships right now.
there you go. I love it. With that being said, I was fooled the whole time. I have the AI I've been talking to you the whole time. But your website is a one mind, like the number one mind.
The number one. Yeah.
I'll make sure I have the information there for you. Best place to, or best way to get in touch with you if they want to.
Whew. Good question.
Talk to your AI boss.
Yeah. But Amanda at onemind.com is fine. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll make sure it's in their way. So thank you so much. Nothing but a pleasure. Appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Jonathan.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the GTM AI podcast. Please follow, subscribe, like, comment, and come back for more.